So I'm sitting here with my former coworker, always fishing buddy, Andrew Burke.
If you had like somehow gotten a hook in your hand and that thing also came at you, that would have been a bad situation.
That's my nightmare.
I think about that all the time. I think about that in the surf. Every little bump I get, I'm just thinking about hook sharpness all the time. I carry a file with me now. But that's the beauty of the episodes, is that you get to relive these moments, and especially when you edit them, you get familiar with all the stuff, and you really kind of start to think about your own fishing. After I flashed this with the light.
Welcome to another episode of the On the Water podcast.
Let's go!
This episode is brought to you by Raymarine. Earn your strikes. Be at your best when the sea's at its worst. Raymarine's high-performance fish finders and navigation tech give you the confidence to run head-on into the storm with gear built to outlast it. Earn your strikes with Raymarine, because when others turn back, you keep fishing. Visit your local authorized Raymarine dealer or learn more at raymarine.com. So, Andrew, the worst night of my 2025 fishing season didn't involve me actually fishing. I got a text message from you that said, "Did you go out?" I responded, "No." And you responded with the grimace emoji. Do you remember this night?
I don't. The grimace emoji? I feel like we have a lot of these conversations.
I miss a lot of good nights.
Yes.
You had such a good night you didn't want to tell me about it just outright. So you asked, "Did you have a good night?" Or "Did you go out?" I said no. You responded with the grimace emoji. And I knew from there it was going to be bad.
Oh, I remember what you're talking about. It was kind of like representative of my striper season, where it was when you got him, the getting was unbelievable. But then there was most nights was just desolate.
It was a very feast or famine kind of season. But when you found them, and you found them more than I did, it was great fishing in kind of a unique situation and with a specific set of hot lures, one of them being the Sluggo. I want to talk about that a little bit later. So I'm sitting here with my former coworker, always fishing buddy, Andrew Burke. He had some time to drop into the On the Water office for a quick podcast and deliver gifts.
Oh, yes. Some Cape Cod puzzles.
Yeah. Of the many talents you have, you're a talented photographer and puzzle maker.
Oh, yeah.
And tell us about the company. Give a little plug for Cape Cod Puzzle Company.
I got the vest on right here. This is one of one made by my girlfriend for Christmas. But anyway, it all started. So I've been a photographer for a long time now. And a couple of years ago, I just felt like, starting up. I always had the idea to make my puzzles into photos. I always had the idea to turn my photo. Dude, I am off the mark. I hate talking about. I hate talking about anything that I do professionally. I'm just like, anyway. I always had the idea to turn my photos into puzzles, and then the pandemic happened, and I figured what better time than now to do it. Everyone's doing puzzles, so might as well get that started up. I had a good photo of the Cape Cod Canal, and I kind of like parlayed that with the fishing community, and then like people who love Cape Cod in general, and kind of like that's the one that got us off the ground was the Cape Cod Canal design.
Well, my favorite one that you've done, I've bought them for gifts for family members. And you have one now of all the Northeast fishing species. You gave one to me today as an early Christmas gift. I'm going to do that with the kids later on. But, man, I want to talk about some of our past fishing adventures and kind of what you got into after you left On the Water. But we've had some pretty memorable nights together out in the surf. And the first one I want to talk about was the fishing was okay. It was pretty good. If you remember, we took a long walk to an empty stretch of beach. And it wasn't so much the fish that were we had issues with mammals both in the water and on the land.
Yes, we were kind of sandwiched between some toothy predators on either side.
Yeah, we'd had a strong onshore wind, put the bass right on the beach. It was a good night of fishing. You actually brought the camera out there because we filmed
how to tie teasers.
Yeah, how to fish teaser rigs for striped bass. And after we did that, you put the camera away. You got to fishing too, and it was pretty good action. I think we even had a double header where fish on the teaser, fish on the lure. Not big fish. But, of course, anytime you're down Cape, you're going to deal with seals. And we dealt with them that night. And there was one that charged right out of the water. And this was one of the most terrifying moments in the surf I've ever had, where the seal comes flying out of the water. And you saved the day. You had your big production light and just blasted this thing. But, man, you have a 500-pound animal. I put the bass on the wet sand, and he just came out of the surf after. If you were right on it though.
No, if he it's one of those things where if you had like somehow gotten a hook in your hand and that thing also came at you, that would have been a bad situation.
That's my nightmare. Yeah. That is that I'm going to be attached to the fish in that way. The seal is going to grab it and drag me out to the surf with it and make me its queen. That's where the mind goes on late nights and surf. So you are from Connecticut originally.
Yep.
Grew up on Cape Cod?
Yeah, so I moved there when I was about 11 or 12, and yeah, been there ever since. Kind of like actually started fishing really up in this neck of the woods.
So what were your early fishing adventures like? All Outer Cape, Eastham, right? Was where you were from?
Eastham, and really it got started. So I obviously started fishing when I was a kid in Connecticut and whatnot, and that's where kind of like I got obsessed with it ultimately. So the news that we were moving to the Cape was like, oh, game on, this is awesome. And this was kind of like right at the heels of when the Outer Cape was really good, because the Outer Cape preceded me a little bit, like the mid 2000s bite. Like I was too young to really get in on that. Didn't have a car or anything like that. But kind of like right around 2010 is when I started really getting into it. And it was kind of at the same time, the seals started to become a real problem. And kind of the Outer Cape went from like this mecca of fishing to really off the radar for a lot of people. Really just like 4 years, it really kind of just like petered out in terms of like popularity. But with that said, it kind of started with, not having a car. I would just drive from beach to beach with my dad, and we would look for birds, and that was kind of the extent of our fishing. We just fish under birds all day, every day, which is pretty nice when we found them. Yeah,
the Outer Cape for me, my introduction to it was in the early 2000s, which was, I would say, the modern day, if we want to call it 25 years ago, modern day. Mm-hmm. The modern day, good old days for it. You had the peak in the 70s and early 80s. It was good then until, like you said, about maybe 2008, 2009. Then it started to really taper off, and you had the seals, but there were still fish there. And it was one of those situations where the word got out that the fishing was bad, and there were less people to confirm that it was still bad. So if you wanted to put some time in, you could still find good fishing.
Absolutely.
Not great fishing, but good fishing. And so that's where you cut your teeth surf fishing, was the Outer Cape?
Yeah, and then really from there, I got a job as a Wellfleet lifeguard on the backside beaches there. So I was spending, 40, 50 hours a week between LeCount Hollow and Newcomb Hollow Beach and roving all between them. So really got to spend a lot of time in that neck of the woods.
As a lifeguard, did you see anything really cool? Did you see like blitzes or stuff while you're in the stand, or what was the cool stuff?
The first few years, I really didn't see much of anything. But then one day, I remember the day it happened. It was 2016, and we came into work, and there was what looked like a wave stretching basically to the horizon, moving north to south, and the whole thing was just bunker. And I had never seen a bunker like that before in my life. So it was like really shocking to see all like this mass migration of bunker. And that was kind of like, it almost felt like the bunker were back. And then from, good 10 years since, it's been basically a bunker fishery. So it was funny to see that. Like there was a day for me where they showed up where they hadn't been prior for, years. And all of a sudden it was just a bunker fishery from there on out.
So if you fish New Jersey and New York, seeing a school bunker that big is kind of it's an every year affair. You see that all the time. But there's certain places that really bunker aren't the primary bait fish. Outer Cape, I would say, is one of them. Block Island's one of them. But when the bunker do move through these areas, it's like the bass, the bass go crazy. They absolutely respond to seeing those big bait fish. They're used to grubbing through the sand for sand eels. This big, meaty bunker school coming through, they get all over. So the couple times I've encountered big bunker schools on the Outer Cape, it's been unbelievable fishing. Anthony DeCicci, who works here, had a day on Block Island where a school of big adult bunker came in, and those fish, which are usually tight to the bottom, eating sand eels, went absolutely ballistic. And they had I think they had four 50-pounders that day or something.
My gosh.
So it's like Jersey and New York, when you have the bunker every day, I guess the fish get accustomed to it. You get a little spoiled. And then these other places, when you see the bunker come through, that's when things light up. So that was a cool day.
It seems like it's one of those bites where when the bunker first show up to an area, it's game on. And then as they like kind of stagnate through the area, the fishing kind of tapers off, and the bass think they can just get one here and there at their leisure.
It becomes a routine. I used to hate seeing them in South Jersey because they were like a Hoover vacuum. I loved when the bunker were on hickory shad. When the stripers were on hickory shad. That was the pattern that I had dialed in the South Jersey inlets. The hickory shad were very predictable. They'd move in on the outgoing tide. They'd feed. So you knew where they were going to be. Bunker just kind of go willy-nilly. Sometimes you guys say they'll swim into the wind because it aids the filter feeding. But when the bunker would come through, all the bass that were on my jetties and in my inlets would just go follow that bunker school and to take them right north.
Oh yeah, it seems like it just changes things so much. Like in terms of, a bite, you really want more predictable bait fish, things that are going to be living there for a while, setting up camp. Like a sand eel bite on the outer cape will last a really long time versus a bunker bite, which is minutes.
Yeah, even in more rocky areas where you don't see the sand eels as much, scup or porgies make kind of a predictable bait fish that the fish get on. So this was 2016, you were a lifeguard in Wellfleet. Now, On the Water wasn't your first fishing media gig. You worked with Ryan Collins of My Fishing Cape Cod. What'd you do with them?
Oh, yeah. So it really kind of came about by virtue of me. I happened to catch a 40-inch fish like very early in the season, at least by early in the season by like outer Cape standards. And I think it was like May 10th I got that fish. So it was kind of like uncharacteristically early, at least in my experiences. And I was like, hey, I was a marketing student at UMass at the time. I was like, hey, I would love to write about this, like learn about like WordPress and like basics of web design. So I offered to do that and like write up a little report about it. And and then that kind of turned into a relationship from there.
When did you get into the photography and videography?
It was it went hand in hand with that. You wanted to capture your own adventures, of course, when you're out there. And really, it kind of came about by like me being a senior in college and being like having decent grades but being very like average student. And I was like, okay, I actually need to develop like a good skill. Like if I want to get an entry level job, I had to have something that I bring to the table. So you weren't really
specialized in college at that point, or you said marketing, right?
Yeah, marketing. Yeah.
Okay.
And so really, I kind of wanted to just like I saw that video consumption was just exploding during that time. So this was like 2017, 2018, and I was like, I'm gonna stake my little career claim in the video sphere. So. Yeah, that's how it came about. Pretty boring.
Did you take courses specific to it, or did you kind of just learn on your own?
Self-taught YouTube University. You can learn anything on YouTube. You really can.
That's a great tip because there's a lot of. I mean, I go to my kids' schools and they say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And it's content creator, influencer. Which I hope there's going to be some doctors left. Yeah. But that's a good point that you don't need to learn this in school. If you go through school, you can still figure that path out on your own, like you did.
Exactly.
And it eventually led you to On the Water, and you were here. Well, you started right before the pandemic. So, but that kind of led to some of our coolest stuff where we were making more video content. And still, one of my favorite projects we've ever done here is At the Rail. And you were here for that. You and I recorded
the pilot.
Yeah, we did the pilot together. So At the Rail was, I'll put a link in the description. It was our party boat fishing series. Me and Anthony DiCicci hosted it. And each trip we would go on a party boat and just capture from the beginning to the end of it. And it wasn't, no matter what happened, we were going to record it. We had a trip where I didn't catch a keeper, and that went out there. So, and so people still watch it. Thank you for the people who watched it. But I loved that series because it's a culture that doesn't get a lot of attention.
It deserves it too. It deserves it. It's amazing
because there's a lot of people that party boat fish, and they don't get their due. The crews, hardworking captains.
And especially when we learned on the TOG trip, like that, it was kind of a foreign world to me. But it's the party boat. It can be technical at times. It is its own class of fishing.
It definitely was. So the first trip we did, we decided we were going to kick it off in late March in New Hampshire, targeting Acadian redfish, which they call them sea perch. It's the only species of rockfish that lives in the Atlantic Ocean. They look like, how would you describe them?
The coloration is incredible, but like you can kind of describe them as like an overgrown goldfish.
Yes.
With huge eyes.
Big eyes,
with the huge
spikes,
eyes. Yeah.
And delicious. You get tiny fillets off them. A big one, I think they have to be 9 inches to keep. And a big one's going to be 12 inches. So you're not getting a ton of meat, so you need to get a lot of them. There's no limit on them. And do you remember the first thing we saw when we got on the boat? And I felt like that set the tone for the At the Rail series.
It was unbelievable. It was everything you wanted. It was a gentleman. We hadn't even cast off the dock. And he's got like the messiest wings you ever see all over a Plano tackle box that clearly had just like chopped clams or something.
Also, it's 6:30 in the morning.
You're already diving into lunch.
He's
digging way ahead of yourself.
This filthy, you can see the worm and squid guts caked to the top of this tackle shop. And he's using, this tackle box. And he's using it as a dinner plate for his early morning wings. It's also the second podcast we've talked about wings. Last time Kevin and I did a deep dive on buffalo wings. We're veering toward a food podcast. But that trip was good. We caught a ton of fish. that wasn't the first one we put out there because we thought Acadian redfish was a little too niche.
Lackluster, yeah.
Yeah, but no, that was a lot of fun. Did you do any other? You did the Tog one in New Jersey, right?
Yep,
Okay.
that was a good one. That was honestly the cool part about the Eastman Fleet one was just seeing like great fishing happen in March. Like filming the TV show, you really get used to like seeing great fishing and like kind of trying to seek out those opportunities. But it was. I mean, by Acadian redfish standards, it was great fishing.
Yeah, we saw a couple wolffish that day. That was very cool. I was hoping to get one of those. A cusk won the pool. And I think on like 3 of our trips, big cusk won the pool on the At the Rail shoots. But that trip, you can't keep the wolffish, but they're really incredible looking fish, kind of eel-like. They've got crazy teeth. They've got incredible jaw power, where I was on a trip where you could keep them and somebody put a full beer in its mouth and it crushed it. And they're supposedly great eating, but they're protected now. And they came in pairs.
Yeah.
So when somebody would hook up, the mate would go, watch out, there's another one down there. Because apparently they mate for life.
Wow, that's cool.
Very interesting fish. They've got antifreeze in their veins to survive in warm water. Cold water. But I always wanted to catch one. They're really cool, but it's all catch and release. I don't think they'll probably open it up again because they're homebodies. So you can wipe out a population pretty quickly.
The redfish really school up, it seems like. We like once you found them, they were, I mean, you could drop as many hooks as you wanted down there and really, like 5 at a time if you wanted to, like sabiki them.
And I did not envy the mates on that trip. The second we stopped, they were cutting fish. Like as soon as the redfish started coming up with the rail, just to keep up with it. So they weren't there until 10 o'clock at night. They were cutting fish the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
And we went home with a big pile of fillets. And it really set the tone for 10 great episodes of At the Rail. We had a good time with that.
Oh, yeah.
So we talked about the seals on the Outer Cape. I forgot to mention what was really the standout of that night wasn't the seals. The seals were a pain in the butt. We lost some fish to them. You scared the one, kept the one from getting my kneecaps. But the coyotes
That was another.
were coming out of the dunes out there.
So we had, after I flashed this with
the light.
With the light. So after we really had like gotten away from the seals, which was kind of like a rarity. Like usually once the seals find you, they are kind of like on you and it's tough to shake them. So I think we had, after flashing that one and walking way down the beach, we like managed to shake them. We had some good fishing. It was, like bumps every cast and small fish, great schoolie fishing. And from there, I had put my camera into your backpack. So this was the first time I had like kind of like fished with you and seen your process. And we parked right behind each other and I walked up to the trunk of your car and I was just, it was shocking, the odor. But anyway, I feel like this has come up on a couple.
My process is a polite way of saying how much of a mess I am when I'm surf fishing and in miss a striper season. But thank you.
Anyway, it was something. And so I needed a waterproof bag to put my camera in because we had a long hike ahead of us. And, you don't want to just focus on, your camera here. You want to keep it dry. And so anyway, I put my camera into your backpack, which had a flavor of its own as well. And so
there was the jacket that was in there.
Oh, that's what it was.
So there was a jacket that was coated in fish slime, dried fish slime. So it wasn't going to affect the camera. But yeah, it had a stink to it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so as we're enjoying this great fishing, by this point in the night, we had definitely focused on the fishing because the fishing was good. And lo and behold, I think you had a double header and we wanted to take a photo of it, like a fish on the needlefish and a fish on the teaser. And I was like, I want to go take a photo of this. This is cool. I turn around. The backpack that we've been inching it down the beach with us going along was gone. And I'm like, where the heck is the backpack? And mind you, this was when I was 23 at the time. Like and this is my personal camera. So basically I spent my life savings on this camera and like, it's just gone. And I'm like, where the heck is it? Like, I'm super diligent about bringing it with us everywhere.
We hadn't seen any other people.
Yeah.
There had been no signs of other human life on this beach.
And then so I run like kind of like up over the beach lip and like I see this like scuffle in the sand and then like a clear trail just going off into the distance beyond where my light can see. And so I just started following it. And then I'm like following the trail like a little detective and I shine my light up and there's just eyes everywhere, like the cat eyes of the coyotes just staring at me, and one has it like in its mouth and is pulling it like off into the brush, and I'm like, the brazenness with which they did it was just unbelievable. And I think if I was seconds later, they would have dragged it into the brush and they would have been gone into the dunes of
You'd
this
never
place.
found it.
Yeah,
I
never,
mean, the extensive dune system there, it would have been gone for good.
Absolutely, yeah.
And even after you got it back, shine the light on them, made some noises, stomped, shouted, tried to scare them off. They persisted.
Yeah, they were like, we want that back.
They would, because we moved our gear closer to us. They'd come within 10 feet of us.
Yeah.
And what we found out later is that in the area, people had been feeding them. And to the point, it came to a head when one actually grabbed somebody's little dog and took that off into the dunes. And so those coyotes had been habituated. And so don't feed the coyotes.
Do not feed the coyotes.
I've done it, like not since then, but like you see one and you toss an eel and it's kind of funny to see come over, but don't do that. Don't. I learned my lesson. I almost cost poor Andrew's nice camera with my smelly jacket and my tendency to feed coyotes eels. But that was a.
What is crazy though is they were healthy coyotes. Like coming from Connecticut, you think of a coyote, and growing up there, you see them and they're not much bigger than foxes, really. But then on the outer Cape, they're like German shepherds.
They're triumphant. They've got these lustrous coats.
Yeah.
They are beautiful dogs. And you see them in other places and they're mangy and they look like Wile E. Coyote, real skinny, mangy looking. These ones, they do. They look like German. They're big. And they think that they're a mix of wolf and coyote. These ones up here in New England, they call them coy wolves. But
if you want to pull up editor, you could pull up a photo from Keegan. He has the craziest shots of these coyotes. Like they literally look like German shepherds.
So Keegan is your cousin. We're trying to get him on the podcast too, but just give us a little, tell us what he does. Why does he have those good photos of coyotes?
So he, I believe, is the beach director at Nauset Beach. So he works for the town of Orleans and moved to the Outer Cape, to Wellfleet specifically, over 10 years ago now. And he's just been living the Outer Cape lifestyle, hunting, fishing, and
so there've been
boating.
Multiple Burkes migrating to the Cape.
Oh yeah. It's there's definitely a Burke pipeline from this wonderful area of Danbury, Connecticut, to the scenic shores of the Outer Cape. That's for sure.
So you were with On the Water how many years?
3 years.
3 years, okay. What was the highlight besides the at the rail and all the time we got to spend together?
Oh, of course. Getting skunked on the Tog trip.
The Tog trip. Yeah. Oh, we had some triumphant failures too.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember those as well as I do the high points. It's funny how that works out. So what was some of the best stuff that you remember? What was your favorite project you worked on while you were here? Not saying at the rail.
Oh yeah.
Everglades Boats is an industry leader in premium offshore fishing boats. Founded in 1997 by boating industry legend and former Boston Whaler executive Bob Doherty, Everglades revolutionized the boat building industry with the invention of the ram cap process for one-piece unsinkable hulls. Respected for its renowned hull ride, Everglades builds center console and hybrid boats from 25 to 45 feet that make a statement about the status and savvy of their owner. Everglades has received numerous industry awards and achieved an unparalleled reputation for superior safety, performance, and quality. For more information about Everglades Boats, stop by your local dealer or visit evergladesboats.com. Everglades Boats, built for beyond. You know what? While you're thinking of that answer, I'm going to bring up one that isn't your favorite project. So when you came on, it was part of our initiative to do more YouTube-style videos. And one of the ideas was lunchtime tournaments. Do you remember lunchtime tournaments?
I do remember lunchtime tournaments.
It got 3 whole episodes, one of which never aired, and I've been accused of sabotage with that because the 2 that I won aired, and the one that Chris won, we just buried. So lunchtime tournaments was this idea, and I'll stand by it being a good idea. It was just a pain in the butt to edit. We'd send 3 of us out at GoPros. We'd have a 1-hour time limit, and the goal would be there'd be a different thing to achieve: inches of pickerel, number of trout. So something you had to achieve in that 1-hour break. And we only got 2 episodes of it, but it got good feedback. It got 100 or so views, but the 100 people liked it.
It was a labor of love, and without ad dollars to support it, it just wasn't long for this world. So that's you and I. It took a lot of man hours to. So basically, we had like a time limit. So we had like multiple cameras, and then like we had to sync them up in time, and then which isn't that bad by itself. But then to condense that all down for for no money.
You'd put graphics on them too. So they were highly produced videos, and they were a lot of fun to do, and they were fun to watch, but they weren't earning on YouTube. Nobody wanted to sponsor it. And after that, it's like, you know, we got a little talking to. It was like, you can't just use company resources to do these fun little things. Some of the times we get away with it, but that was one that got nixed pretty quick, especially after we didn't air the one that he won.
And mind you, this was in my first month of working here, so I'm just trying to follow my boss, Jim Fee, and
I was not.
He led me down an interesting road.
Yeah, don't follow my road. I was not even remotely in your pipeline. I was more like a fun uncle from the side, like trying to get you in trouble. But yeah, that was.
And you succeeded.
Yeah, there you go. Did you think of your favorite project yet? That's a bad sign. Okay, let me rephrase that one. What was your favorite TV episode you were involved in? Ooh. You were on some good ones.
The freshwater side definitely stands out with the Swift River episode, because that was super cool. Because I had known of the Harrison anglers from a shoot I did prior to joining on the water. I did a basically a mission video for this nonprofit called Rifles to Rods, and that video got a lot of use for them in terms of like fundraising efforts and just explaining what they do, getting veterans on the water. And I was filming it. I was really impressed by the Harrison Angler outfit. They were phenomenal guides, really, really sharp on the water. And I know Chris loved fly fishing, so putting that shoot together was very, very cool. And we had just a banner day on the Swift River. And
yeah, so the Harrison Anglers, they have they actually float some of the rivers in central western Massachusetts. Would Swift be western? That's western.
Yeah, that's western. Oh yeah.
So western Massachusetts, they take rafts, they float the rivers. They bring kind of a Western style of trout fishing, fly fishing to New England. So you don't see a lot of it. See it on the upper Delaware. I don't know if anybody floats the Farmington or if you can, but they float the Deerfield and they float the Swift. And it's a really great chance to experience what Western fly fishing would be like. Now, if anybody's ever fished out west in Montana, they're going to say, well, it doesn't even approach it. But
well, the thing is with the West trout, they see a lot of presentations and they see a lot of boats. These fish, when you're getting like way up into some of these rivers, they're not seeing a whole lot of pressure. They're really not seeing flies much at all.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Swift River fishery, if you know much about it?
Yeah, sure. It's so there's an upper section. So it's a tailwater from the Quabbin, and a good time to go is in the middle of summer, and it can be this shoot. It was in particular, it was nearly 100 degrees outside, and the water is still 50 flat, and it is like when you feel that disparity, it is something. And so it's a tailwater, stays cold year round, very stable, but there's an upper section and a lower section. The upper section is it barely flows. It's very, very slow. It's almost it is basically a still water. And then there's a dam, and then the lower section, which is very, very riffly, very like kind of what you would imagine, like small stream fishing for trout. It's
now, is the upper section where the fly fishing only zone is?
I'm not sure if I'm not.
So the Swift coming out of the Quabbin does. Okay. So it's right there in is it Belchertown?
Belchertown, yeah.
So I fished the fly fishing only section, and what you said about other parts of the river not being pressured is the opposite for that one section. Now it's wading only, fly fishing only.
That is the upper section.
Okay,
but yeah, I'm not sure how well that water moves, but towards this dam,
it doesn't move well. It's very slow.
Yeah, very slow. Extremely clear. Like if you're not fishing with 6X, you're wasting your time.
Those are the most educated trout I've ever seen. Now, I've never floated it. I want to talk about that fishery in a second, but the fly fishing only section of the Swift, they are so tricky to catch. It is an amazing fishery because you go in and you can see them all. It's so clear, like it almost looks like they're just floating in air.
Oh yeah.
And they are so picky, but so used to fishermen. It's not like they're picky and they're spooky. They're used to you. Well, if you shuffle your feet, you'll kick up all these little bugs. You'll have trout following you around like puppies, just kind of like getting little insects out from under your boots. Yet they'll ignore every fly you throw at them. I haven't been back in years. I would go in the middle of winter and you catch a couple on streamers, and that was fun. But
mind you, we're talking about fly fishing. I am not a fly expert whatsoever. Very, very limited experience with it. But filming the TV show, you kind of like learn how to fish through osmosis, because you're on the productions, you're seeing how it's all done, and then you're living with the footage for weeks at a time. So I'm rewatching all these moments over and over again. So you kind of get to like learn through osmosis a little bit. But what's cool about the Swift is that it really is a good learning opportunity, because you see how your fly is interacting with the fish and like what spooks them, what doesn't spook them. And you really get a sense of how the fly and the fish are actually interacting with each other. Which you can carry that over into any form of fishing too, which is super beneficial.
You guys caught a mess of fish that day too. I mean,
Yes.
it was lights out.
Yeah.
I mean, for midsummer, 100. I didn't know it was 100 degrees that day.
Yeah, nearly 90 something. Yeah.
And big, beautiful rainbow trout, and man, catching them as many as you wanted, pretty much.
Yeah, it was a heck of a first episode to edit. You know, we go through and we log all the fish, and I had my work cut out for me. I think I stopped at like 30 something. I was like, okay, this is enough fish for an episode.
It's a good endorsement for the Harrison Anglers. I've been wanting to book a trip for them and my daughter, Mara. So she kind of likes fishing. I'd like to introduce her to fly fishing, but I'm not much of a fly fisherman. Anyhow, I was thinking of booking a trip with them because having the contained environment on the raft, on the boat, they know they're going to see fish. I take her to the kettle ponds here and we catch some trout on power bait and stuff, but
it's a different. I mean, I love the kettle pond fishing, but it's a lot of fun. I cannot recommend them enough.
So that was your favorite freshwater shoot. I'm going to venture a guess on your favorite saltwater one, but I could be wrong.
No, go ahead.
I'm going to say the live chumming with Rob Taylor.
You nailed it. That was a great one.
That was very cool. So on that trip, we joined Captain Rob Taylor, who's been on this podcast a bunch, been on a bunch of our shows. And he had said, we're going to chum with live bunker and we're going to make our own blitzes. And going into it, I was skeptical. Did you think it was going to happen?
I mean, the overhead baseball throw, the live bunker, I thought it was a reach.
It looked ridiculous. It
but
seemed ridiculous.
I had known enough about Rob to not doubt it. So, but I was going in with mixed expectations.
So he would take the bunker, find mark bass on his side scanning sonar, and then overhand throw the bunker toward the bass. One or two, or just a couple of them, fewer bunker than he saw bass, to create competition and bring them to the surface.
I think you had lower expectations than I did, though.
I was much more skeptical because it's this expanse of Narragansett Bay. We're going to create our own blitz with 3 bunker we're going to throw out there. But sure enough, the first time he did it, and I'm standing there watching this unfold, and he starts screaming, cast the lure.
With the dock still on the hanger.
I know, dude. That was a doubting Thomas, but no more. I don't doubt anything Rob Taylor says anymore.
Should have learned the lesson.
So we had a great day there. I remember you editing that, and that became one of our most viewed episodes ever on YouTube. So that was...
That was my first time fishing with Rob, and it was like drinking from a fire hose of information. It was like there were so many like little things you could take away from that episode. Like even if you're not a boat guy, like seeing, for instance, this, I still think about this all the time, is that circle hook going through basically like the jawbone of the striper. And it's like, if you don't have razor sharp hooks, and he was saying it, like he was holding up the file and saying that like this is one of the most important things on the boat is the hook file. I think about that all the time. I think about that in the surf. Every little bump I get, I'm like, I'm just thinking about hook sharpness all the time. I carry a file with me now. It's you just don't know. But that's the beauty of the episodes, is that you get to relive these moments, and especially when you edit them, you get familiar with all the stuff, and you really kind of start to think about your own fishing.
It drives the point home for sure.
Yeah.
And that's why I love fishing with you. I love talking about fishing with you. You are very detail oriented. So that type of thing, the sharpening the hook, you think about that. You're very organized. You talked about my truck being a yard sale and a mess. I'm a persistence pays off. Whereas, I'm a shotgun with there's a wider shot. You're a sniper when it comes to your fishing stuff, much more organized. And that's too kind. No, it's true.
I go on a lot of wild goose chases. I'm usually the first one to put you up to a wild goose chase. We used to call we used to go fishing on Wednesdays back in the day, and we called it Workout Wednesday because that would just make you hike and then not catch fish usually.
But you need somebody to go on goose chases with, because not everybody's up for it. Too many. I have a lot of fishing buddies you say, hey, you want to go tonight? We'll be like, the first question is, how's it been?
Yep.
And I try not. Sometimes you veer into that territory, but I try not to be that guy I'm only going to go when it's good. Like, you have to be on the exploratory missions to really get the full payoff of it.
That was kind of the theme of my past striper season, was just like exploring new water, because if you just like hit the same spots over and over again that you're accustomed to, you're really leaving a lot behind. And a lot of the time the fishing was not even slow. It was just non-existent if you weren't moving around a lot.
And you have to be willing to not catch fish to explore. It is, let's say, I've lived on the Cape since 2008, and I have a lot of places where I have a lot of great memories, and they can become a bit of a trap where I keep going to those places because I know they produce fish. And the other thing that's happening is like the time to explore is constricting because, of kids and family. So you get into this kind of rut. It's where the groove becomes a rut, where I'm like, I'm going to go to spot X over and over and over because I know eventually it's going to produce fish. Whereas I could explore, still not catch fish, but potentially learn something new. And that's what you did a lot of the season. You
explored. So I have a good litmus test of it. I bought a truck in June, and I've already put, this is December now, I put 20,000 miles on it already. So I'm just like, it doesn't matter like what it takes to go to new spots. It's like, you got to try and make big changes too. Like you can't go from one end of the beach to the other. It's like, if it's not happening in my backyard, I'm going 90 minutes either direction.
I think that's especially true now with the state of the striper fishing, where there are just fewer fish and some of the old patterns aren't holding, whether it's the bait fish moving, whether it's the population dynamics of the bass. But by exploring more, you scrape together a good season overall.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of skunks in between, but like there's plenty of instances where, just taking a lot of skunks in a lot of new places ultimately pays off when you do find them. But one thing that I've kind of noticed over the years is when I first started here, part of my role was also going through all the Striper Cup entries. And it was kind of like, I feel like it was pawned off to me a little bit because it's like no one else wants to do it.
Nobody wanted to do that, no.
But so I was ultimately funneling all the photos, all the entries through this different program called Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom. And it allows you to kind of like look through photos pretty quickly and also like do the necessary edits that we had to do to get them up on the website in bulk. But ultimately I could arrow through all the photos very quickly. And really it kind of gives you a good, like, I almost felt like a three-eyed raven from Game of Thrones. Like I could see everything that was going on in the striper sphere at the same time on a weekly basis. But it kind of really gave you a sense of like how people are catching like 40-inch plus fish and larger fish. And a lot of them are from shore in the day in weird places with no current. This was kind of the year of finding fish that were staged up, doing God knows what, but just kind of just hanging out. Like I didn't have a great night in like what a surfcaster, like a hardcore surfcaster would consider like typical striper territory. It was a lot of zero current, zero structure, just fish just being there. It's very strange. And that's something I also picked up from Eric Harrison. And like I went to Kayak University, put on by Old Town and Tim Moore Outdoors. And he was always talking about, he was finding schools of fish in 2 feet of water on side scan, on sand. And I'm like, 2 feet of water, like close to shore. I'm like, that's surfcasting territory. So I had a couple of instances where like, I'm like, maybe I should just be trying different places and just combing through large stretches of water until I find one of these places. And that's kind of what ultimately paid off like towards the summertime.
I struggle like that. That is a leap that I struggle to take. Like I am used to ambush points, structure, places where I can picture why a striped bass is going to be there. Now they're never anywhere by accident. There's a reason they're in 2 feet of water, but I don't know what that reason is. Like I know the structures where I fish. I know why they want to be there. I've got a good idea of what they're eating there. I have a tough time. It's not random, and I know it's not random, but I don't fully understand it. So I struggle with what you said, just covering ground and just, trying here just because.
Boat Mart is the online marketplace built to help you find your next boat. From the last fall striper blitz to next spring's first cast, Boat Mart is here to get you on the water. With thousands of listings from fishing boats to pontoons, cruisers to sailboats, Boat Mart has something for everyone. Listings from fishing boats to pontoons, cruisers to sailboats, Boat Mart has something for every boater and every adventure. As the official marketplace partner of On the Water, we make it simple to find your next boat. Visit boatmart.com today to search for your next boat, or check them out in the classifieds tab on onthewater.com to find your next fishing boat.
Anyway, that kind of brings us full circle to the night that we discussed earlier. And this was off the heels of a decent night that I managed to help get you in on.
Oh, yeah. So you were there. I'd gotten back from ICAST. Sorry. I just got back from ICAST. I got a text from you. You said, you're back in the surf. So I'm trying to be, you should come up to where I am. It's pretty good.
And usually I'm not the one to share a live bite at all. I do not do that. But I was the only person there at the start of the bite, and I figured might as well call it my good friend.
We had a great night there. beautiful fish, big fish. And again,
Why were
Exactly.
they there? They were definitely there for reasons that made sense to them. But if you were going down the beach, you wouldn't have thought that there were fish there, really.
and we were leaving at the end of the tide. The tide had switched, and then another shift was showing up. And so, I don't understand what it was about that particular area. I went back there multiple times, never found them there again.
Neither did I.
But
it was just a one and done.
It was just kind of the theme of the season. I want to contrast that to, let's say, 2017. If you were going to pick your highlight years, because I know you fished the canal a lot in 2017. We've talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was as consistent as it gets.
Oh, absolutely.
I
And
mean-
like with all size classes too. Like it felt like there was a full spectrum available, and like the next fish, like there was no real way to know what the next fish would be size wise. It could be 16 inches. It could be 45 inches. There was no way to know, really.
And that was a year where they were in all the places where there's, in my mind, they're supposed to be. They would be at their ambush points. They would be hanging around structure. This year, they weren't where they were supposed to be, by my judgment. The striped bass, like I said, they make no mistakes. Nothing's random for a wild animal. It's doing that thing for a reason. But man, the patterns are changing. You kept up with them. My goal is this year to be more like Andrew in terms of the exploring and trying new places and be willing to catch no fish. See, a lot of the choices I made this year were, I would rather catch no fish at a familiar place than catch no fish at an unfamiliar place. And that's,
I respect that to a point.
it is, because sometimes when I'm somewhere new, I'm thinking, oh, well, I should be back there. I know that there's fish there sometimes. It becomes kind of a mental game, a lot of the fishing aspect, where you're kind of fighting against yourself and your own guesses there.
Yeah, it seems like, you and I don't actually fish together like side by side that much over the course of the season. We have a couple spots where we definitely have like a nice overlap during certain times of year, but really it is hard to break from those patterns. And me having also moved for a job like a couple of years ago, it kind of moving away from the Cape also for the first time in a long, long time. It kind of put me in a place where I had to find new water no matter what. Being outside Boston, I'm not going to go fish the backside beaches on a weekday when you have a regular job. It's like you kind of got to like break out of the mold a little bit. And part of what's nice about being in the Boston area is you're still only an hour from here, Falmouth, and then hour from North Shore, so you really get to cover a good swath of water.
Oh, definitely, man. And there's so much water just between, our office here is in Falmouth. I live in Falmouth. Just an hour north or south of here, there are some of the best striper surf fishing grounds in the world. You extend it out to 2 hours, and man,
everything.
Yeah, all you're missing is Jersey and Montauk.
Exactly.
So, and Maine. Although I still haven't caught a Maine fish. Have you ever caught a fish in Maine?
I haven't got a Maine fish. I have a New Hampshire fish though.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh wow, that's even that's got a more rare. Only 17 miles of coastline to get that done.
Yeah,
so.
it was right. I used to live in Dover, New Hampshire, which is pretty far inland, like way up the Piscataqua River, and I have a few bass out of there.
There's a direction. I know where I want to take it. One last thing on your 2025 striper season. Give me your 2 all-stars for lures from the surf.
Oh man, I'm a big bottle plug guy.
Okay.
I usually swear by that. I caught one good fish on a bottle plug this year, and the rest of them were on rigged sluggos, and that was it. I almost am embarrassed by how much I fished the rigged sluggo, but it does not leave the tip of my rod hardly ever.
They have had a real resurgence in the last couple of years to the point where their tackle shops have been selling out at peak season. Are you buying them rigged, or are you rigging them yourself?
I'll buy them rigged if I can, and then if I can't buy them rigged, I kind of have like an obsessive thing about rigging, and I always worry that the rigging process won't go well for me for some reason. So I actually started just using a 9.0 Siwash through the nose, and that's it. Because they almost always hit the head, and then the 9.0 Siwash is just, it's basically a gaff. Like it's not like it's not going to bend out.
It's a big hook.
Yeah, exactly. I've had bend outs with the regular rigged ones, but I have a lot of confidence in just that head hook, and it also keeps it down just a little bit. Because if you reel with a high rod tip, like typical like surf rod position with the rod tip up, they'll plane right up to the surface really quickly. So just having that little bit of extra weight just in the head, I think it does a little bit better job of just keeping it down in the water column, like ever so slightly, like not breaking the surface.
Yeah.
Just, I don't really like them breaking the surface or nosing like a floating needlefish or a slow sinking needlefish. I want them like gliding just below the surface.
Now, are you adding a lot of action to the Sluggo?
Nothing.
Not so, just straight in.
Nothing. Absolutely
Okay.
nothing. I don't.
No twitches.
No twitches.
All right.
Usually. And I'll also fish them sidearm a lot. Like one thing that I think is kind of unique to the way I fish with an 11-foot rod is I'll put it right under my armpit almost all the time that I'm fishing, especially with the Sluggos, because I don't want that thing climbing up in the water column. And if you are, standing there, rod tip way up in the air, you're making that thing plane to the surface.
Yeah, you've got a high angle of the line. It's going to plane to the surface. It is just so awkward to fish with a long rod down to the side. I try to do it. I'm good for a couple casts. I would rather point it straight at it. I'm better off like hunching over, pointing the rod tip straight at it, and retrieving it that way.
And one thing with the Sluggo, I think when a bass hits it, it feels like they kind of like erupt. They're more prone to like erupt right on the surface with it as soon as you hook them. So I feel like when you have the rod sidearm, you can pull sort of like down and across. And a lot of the time when I set the hook, my rod tip is well underwater. Like half my rod will be underwater if I'm doing a deep wade, and I'm cranking them kind of down. I think it gets a better hook set, and those initial head thrashes, especially with big bass, you kind of keep them pinned just a little bit better, because if you're pulling a thrashing bass up, it's going to come right back at you.
Once that lure leaves the water, it's
Yeah.
a lot more leverage, kicking around, more likely to knock the hooks out of it. Andrew, before we go, I want to talk about your gig after On the Water.
Oh, yeah.
Which fascinated me to no end. Tell us, where'd you go after you left On the Water?
So after On the Water, I went to Brave Wilderness, which is a YouTube channel focusing on wildlife. But what we're most known for is the bite and sting content. So we go all around the planet looking for the biggest, baddest insects that can deliver the worst stings on the planet and putting them to the test against our host.
Now, before I ask you some of the places you went, the thing I found most interesting was a very familiar very familiar animal to me, the bloodworm.
Oh, yeah.
And some of the most popular videos on the Brave Wilderness YouTube channel are the bloodworm stings.
There are only 2 venomous worms on the planet, and the fireworm in Florida is one of them, but that has like a bristle type sting. The only venomous biting worm on the planet is the bloodworm.
So they really do have venom to them. I always thought that was a rumor because I worked at tackle shops and I was constantly dealing them over the counter, people looking to catch kingfish. So there's venom in that?
Yes, they have 4 fangs, and they are indeed venomous. Very venomous. It's one of the our host rates the bites and the stings on like a 1 to 10 scale, and one of the components of the scale is the aftermath. So that is basically measuring the venom's effects on the body over a prolonged period of time, and that was also one of the first things we had ever filmed together. And he deliberately got bit on the wrist by a bloodworm, and he had a watch on, and it like kind of like trapped the venom, and it in a couple minutes he had a massive goose egg, and like it looked like his wrist was basically broken. Like it was that bad of a venom reaction.
Now, how much do you know? I know you're not a bloodworm biologist, but can you do you know why they have their venom, a little bit of their life history, or?
Yeah, they're marine predators. They're down there like rooting through the mud for anything that they can really sink their fangs into. And a lot of those marine worms have very bizarre methods. I think the bloodworm is definitely the most active predator you can find down there, but there's also the milky ribbon worm, which is an invasive species. It's truly one of like the yucky creatures of the muck. It's like
They're around here in the Northeast?
Yeah, you can find them, especially in Maine too. They're really kind of becoming a problem for like the little neck population, little neck clams. Basically, you have the green crabs, which are predating all the juvenile clams, and then you have the milky ribbon worms, which are predating adults. And so they have this very long, sticky proboscis, which is what they are firing out of their head, basically. But they kind of like fire it into these clams down their siphon and basically kind of like eating them from the inside out. So basically, anytime a predator like a bloodworm or a milky ribbon worm has venom, it's to eat prey. So they're getting a little bit of an advantage with how they're predating. It kind of gives them a chemical advantage. But yeah, they're gross. They're very gross, and they are venomous.
So the bloodworms are, I mean, the video I watched, you had to work a little bit to get it to bite it. It's not like you're not going to reach into your half dozen bloodworms to bait your hook and deal with that.
Exactly. Like you're getting occasionally tagged like maybe a single fang, but it takes a good bit of work, because they fire I said it before, their proboscis, which is this appendage that kind of like fires out of their mouth, and that's what they're kind of attacking with.
Yeah, I'm assuming most people are familiar with bloodworms, but they are, picture your average night crawler, give it some bristles down the sides, and then at the head end of it, if you aggravate it enough, just kind of another head erupts from it, and it has 4 black teeth in there, and it is the first time you see it, it is wild.
Oh yeah, they're kind of like grappling hooks. So basically, they're firing this thing out, and they're kind of like looking to ensnare something, and then like kind of retract it back into their other mouth to eat it.
Now, bloodworm prices I haven't bought them in a couple years, but they have been as much as $1.50 a piece. I remember paying $18 a dozen for big prime bloodworms. They all seem to come from Maine. Is that where you went to do the sting, or just?
Yeah. We work with a great guy named Wayne Bishko. He has basically an account dedicated to bloodworms and living on the coast of Maine, but he's a full-time bloodwormer.
Did you dig them with him?
Yeah, we did. So we did one episode where we went out on the tidal flats in the intertidal zone and dug up a whole bunch. We did a milky ribbon worm episode with him pretty recently, and then the bloodworm bite.
Tell me about the digging bloodworms. Like, is it hard work? What's it like?
Work. Oh, it's hard work. It's backbreaking work, man. We have our host, very capable outdoorsman, but I mean, this guy Wayne, built for bloodworming, man. Like iron grip, and he's got these crazy tines that they have custom made. So basically, it's kind of like a rake with a handle here, but the teeth are almost pointed like back at you.
Okay.
And they're wide, so they're about that wide, skinny, and he's basically peeling back layer after layer of mud, like kind of just over and over again. And he does this no matter the weather and no matter kind of like time of day too, because he's living by the tides basically. So it's all tide dependent, and you need that dropping and incoming tide, low tide, exposing all the mud. Got to get in, get out, get as many worms as you can.
And there is a bit of a year-round market for them, because when we went smelt fishing a couple years ago, 5 or 6 years ago now, we went up there in February, and the prime bait was bloodworms. And we talked to the guy at the smelt shack there. It was Jim's Smelt Shacks on, I guess it was the Kennebec River.
Yep.
And Ray Cray, who sold us our bloodworms, digs them himself. And his name was Ray. His last name was Crayford, but he said, everybody calls me Ray Cray. And he was another bloodwormer. And he said that there's competition for them. Other people get in there, and because you said it's hard work, but there's money out there in that mud.
Oh, yeah.
Did Wayne say how much he gets per worm? Like, I know buying it from the tackle shop, it's about $1.50 a piece. What's he getting per worm?
Ooh, I don't exactly know.
The Quantum Zeal Surf Rod series delivers high performance at an unbeatable value. Crafted with HSX 24-ton carbon fiber blanks, these rods offer exceptional sensitivity and strength. The stainless steel guides with zirconia inserts ensure durability and smoothness while casting, even while charging through the waves and climbing onto rocks. The double-locking graphite reel seat keeps your reel in place while putting the brakes on big bass. And the moderate fast action helps bring plugs to life and keep stripers pinned. Fishermen have 5 models to choose from, with prices beginning at $139.99. There's the 8-foot, 3/4 to 3-ounce rod, perfect for walking sand beaches and throwing minnow plugs, all the way up to the 12-foot, 3 to 8 rod for soaking chunks for cow stripers. Check out the full lineup of Zeal rods at quantumfishing.com. So of the other stings, let's start with local stings.
Yeah.
Besides the bloodworm, what would most surprisingly vicious sting that you experienced, let's say on the East Coast?
Oh yeah, East Coast, definitely the fireworm. That the other venomous worm species, the fireworm is no joke. So our host Mark, he has, I mean, he did the sting years ago now, but he still has a scar and it's pretty severe discoloration years later. And they basically have bristles on the sides of their body, kind of like the bloodworm, but much more pronounced. And it's almost like fiberglass. So it's like a venomous fiberglass that gets into your skin.
So it breaks off?
It breaks off, yeah, and it's a big mess. It's very, very painful.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's and then there's all the insects and whatnot. Their own can of worms, and we have to travel pretty good ways to get some of them.
Yeah, you've been to Australia?
Yep, we did Australia.
Where else?
We did the bull ant in Australia. And the scorpion fish thing. Oh gosh, that's one of our biggest videos ever. Was he took a dose of pardon me, I meant to say stonefish. The stonefish.
Yeah. Scorpionfish we have up here. There's a scorpionfish family. A couple members of it actually can catch deep dropping in the canyons.
Yeah.
And you don't want to touch them either. They've got some venom to them. But the stonefish is...
I'm getting my wires crossed because he's done the scorpionfish too. He's done the lionfish, the scorpionfish, and the stonefish. So he's ascended the ranks of the fish stings. And the stonefish is by far the worst.
Yeah, could be lethal, correct?
Yes, it can. I mean, it can induce cardiac arrest from the severity of the pain. And so, yeah, we got to kind of like milk one of these stonefish. So basically, they are so well camouflaged that you basically cannot see them. And they have no flight response because they're so camouflaged. They actually have this substance that enables vegetation. It's basically fertilizer on their skin to help vegetation grow on it, to further camouflage it. But between its camouflage and its venom, it has basically no flight response. So when you do spot one in a tide pool, you can go right up to it and pick it up, which is exactly what we did. And
now, if I were to do that, knowing very little about them, would I get stung, or do you have to? Is it another thing where you have to pretty much step on it?
It's stepping on it that is what you really want to avoid. You can pick it up from the other side. It's like kind of like a almost like a bluegill. Like it's really the spines you're watching out for.
Yeah.
Way more painful than a bluegill, needless to say. But really, it's when people step on it, it just releases a tremendous amount of venom. We did not want to actually put Mark, our host, at risk. So we did a test prior with it. So we had a piece of neoprene and we filmed it with slow motion cameras, and we just basically raised the spikes and then put the neoprene on top of it really quickly to simulate a foot stepping on it. And an unbelievable amount of venom came off of it. It sprayed well into the air off of every spine. So all the spines basically shot off a couple cc's of venom. So if you were taking that in the foot, you'd be in a really bad situation.
When it comes to places to fish and how dangerous it is, I mean, we talked about our coyotes and seals. The Northeast is pretty tame. We don't have to worry about grizzly bears like they have in the Northwest in Canada. We don't have to worry about stepping on anything that's going to do that to you. It is poisonous snakes are pretty few and far between here. It's a nice safe place to fish.
It is.
And I think about that all the time. Sometimes I think about, you see alligator videos down in Florida. I love it here. This is home.
Although you're having more run-ins with some toothy predators on the surf.
The sharks. So you're another fan of the surf fishing for sharks in the summertime. I love that.
It is the best.
It is so much fun. It is laid back. It's relaxed. I love doing it. And now, there were a couple years when brown sharks were kind of few and far between. These days they're so abundant that it's almost automatic.
Yeah. I think my best night of sharking, we caught 9 in about 90 minutes. We were averaging 1 every 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. It was something.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Man.
At our old little sharking spot. It's wild how consistent it is. It was way more time fighting sharks than waiting for bites. Like it is, you're pitching out a rod and you're waiting 90 seconds, 2 minutes maybe.
That's the best, dude. I mean, I've had some long nights, and you still have some skunks out there, but they're so abundant here in southern New England right now that you'd be silly not to go do it, because it's a great fight. It is.
And then on top of it, the reason why I kind of track this speed is because there's a lot of weird stuff that could also be swimming out there. You're seeing it more and more every year. There's more bizarre catches, and it's really just a matter of keeping a line in the water, an active bait going, and you can catch some seriously weird stuff.
Yeah. So some of the weird stuff you're talking about is a guy got a tarpon fishing off the south side of Cape Cod on a chunk of bluefish. Multiple tiger sharks have been caught. Sand tiger sharks, which are protected. So if you catch a sand tiger, you have to leave it at the water's edge and get it back in the water quickly. And like you said, who knows what else?
Exactly.
The most disappointing thing you could catch is a 40-inch striped bass. Like you're like, oh, one of these?
Yeah, winch it right in with that gear.
fuck
I do have something I would like to add on the shark beat.
Yeah.
And one of those things why I keep track of the speed too is I really try to minimize the amount of time that shark is out of the water. So I fish usually I like the BKK monster circles, the 10-0s. I always crush the barb every single time. It makes dehooking the shark so much easier for the shark, easier for you. And really to keep the bait on the hook, I use dead eels a lot. I'll kind of like do a makeshift bridle. So I'll put the eel on like as if you were striper fishing, circle hook right through the head. And then I'll take one of those bridling rubber bands and just kind of like wrap it up a couple times. That helps it stay on the hook. You can actually get a few sharks out of a single eel. And then I'm telling you, I've never dropped a shark on a barbless hook. I've never had the instance where I've dropped plenty of sharks, equipment failures and whatnot, but I've never fought a shark with a properly set circle hook and then had it drop mid-fight just by virtue of getting off the hook.
Yeah, mid-fight's the key there. So you'll have it where they maybe don't have the full eel in their mouth or something like that, and you'll have it on for a second or two and it'll pull. But
if you're using a long spinning rod, it's gonna keep that thing buttoned right in the corner of the mouth.
And it makes the unhooking process so much easier. It's easier on you. It's easier. It's safer for both you and the shark. I started doing that after you told me about it. And man, because you'll even if you have the dehooker, you have to fight to get that big barb out.
Yeah.
With barbless, get the shark back in the water, get the bait back out there, hook another one.
Exactly.
Eels are your main bait?
Eels. It's just, for me, it's a consistency thing. I always worry that like maybe my bait isn't presenting correctly. Like I fished bluefish before, I fished other chunk baits, but with the eel, I find myself worrying less about it. It's not as susceptible to the crabs. I feel like it's more, I feel like I'm spending more time actively fishing when I have an eel.
I like to have a bluefish in the mix.
It is nice.
I like to have a chunk of fresh bait out there. But the eels, if you can't go get fresh bluefish or fresh bunker before the trip, eels are always at the tackle shops. But now, see, you've got an advantage coming from off Cape. The sharking here has become so popular that guys are showing up on the days that they get their eel shipments in at the tackle shops, and they're combing through for the biggest ones. Now, I haven't found that the biggest eels catch more sharks. I find it's like the same striper size, 14 to 16 inches. But there are guys who want their 22-inch
snakes.
Yeah. Have you noticed any difference there?
I can't say that I have. Really, like if you're getting small ones, then you're going to run into an issue. But like small by eel standards, I use the same standards for striper fishing. Like if it's a small striper eel, it's probably not going to work. It's probably not going to work great for stripers either. Of course, that could not be the case too, of course, with stripers. But yeah, it's kind of like if it's basically above 14 inches, it's going to be good shark bait.
What's your shark rig?
So I run a very short. So I run the 10-0 circle hook to about 10 inches of wire. I use really heavy wire too. And then I'm running to a heavy duty barrel swivel and then 200-pound mono. And above that barrel swivel to mono connection, I have a slide fish finder rig. Mm-hmm. Yep. And usually 6 ounces pyramid sinker. And then just a monster of a leader, basically the 200-pound mono. And I use basically, I think like 24 feet of that. Basically, I aim to have the FG knot tied by FG knot, basically right above the spool. So I'll use on a 12-foot rod, it's about 22 feet.
Yeah, with that heavy of a shock leader there, you don't want it on the reel. It's going to be a nightmare coming off there. But mine's pretty similar. I use a little bit lighter wire, and the only reason that is back when I worked at the tackle shop in 2005, I bought this spool of wire, and I am still working off of it.
There you go.
And I will probably have it till my very last shark trip. I use a short leader. I use maybe 6 to 8 inches.
It helps casting distance tremendously. You don't need, you just basically want to keep it out of their teeth, and then the heavy duty mono.
I want the sinker right there on the reel. Yeah, and the mono, beyond the potential of it biting off, they've got such sandpapery skin that when you hook one striper fishing, if you get a good hook set and then it doesn't bite you off, usually it's going to be the braid because the braid's going to hit their sharp skin. The 200-pound test, I can rig that up at the beginning of the season, and it's going to be opaque and it's going to be chafed, but it's going to be good for every single shark trip I make.
That's a Sharky rig. It's a Sharky rig when you have it like totally sandpapery mono. Oh, it's the best.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for making some time for us in here, and I can't wait to see. Hopefully, we get into some more adventures this summer.
Oh yeah.